In the midst of cutting her own hair, Julia Maxwell asked her best friend, Mizuki Ashiya, if she was really going to be okay. Mizuki continued to cut, having heard Julia's concerns dozens of times now. She had already done the paperwork to transfer to her new school of choice. But the hardest part was convincing her parents to let her go. Julia was particularly worried because Mizuki was going to Japan all by herself, transferring to a Japanese high school, all over a boy. He must be a lucky guy, or unlucky, that she cared about him this much. Mizuki sprinted, apologizing as she rushed by bystanders. Being late on her first day at a new school was definitely not good. Entering the gate at Osaka Private High and into the building, she kept chanting, "Class 1C, Class 1C, Class 1C," continuously as she searched for her classroom. She bumped into a boy in the hall, and with him picking her up, he said she looked like a girl. She gasped. She couldn't afford to get caught, so she left her bag behind with the excuse she was in a hurry. Busting into 1C's door, she hastily introduced herself as the transfer student, apologizing for her delayed flight arrival. The teacher told her it was alright, and they got to introductions. Ashiya-kun transferred here from America. The boys thought it was so cool. Then, the boy from earlier placed her bag on her head. She couldn't believe it was Izumi Sano, the whole reason she moved here. She gushed, just watching him enter the classroom. During break, Mizuki stared in awe at her classmates. While she prepared herself for this, attending an all-guys school was something else. She felt so lucky to be in the same class as the boy she liked. While Sano's friends were trying to chat with him, she interrupted, suddenly telling him she liked him and asked to be his friend. He got thrown off, and all the friends went, "Oh!" Mizuki wondered if she said something weird. He told her, "Sorry, but I'm not into that." Oh, I get it. They think Mizuki is a gay guy. She tried to clear up the misconception, but he just cut out of class. Mizuki wasn't going to give up though. She crossed the entire ocean to be here. Seeing her chuckling, the guys definitely thought she was a weirdo. Shuichi Nakatsu thought she was a funny guy. He's never seen someone confess right after they transferred. She assured him she was just trying to make friends, and sighed, thinking Sano must hate her now. Nakatsu promised her, "No worries." Sano was just sulking. Introducing himself, he claimed no one was quicker on their feet than him at Osaka High. Despite being a first year, he was already a forward. They called him the soccer team's fiery young lion. She meekly greeted him back, and he told her, "No, all wrong. No one their age had any business being so mousy." After class, Nakatsu led her to the dorms. Since they were both in dorm 2, Mizuki was surprised that the school had 3 dorms, but it made sense since there were lots of kids here on sports and liberal arts scholarships. Nakatsu being one of them. He got in on a soccer scholarship. He suddenly grabbed her shoulder, wanting to get the scoop about what everyone was talking about, her living abroad. He wanted to know if it was true they went harder over there. She gave a soft response, answering everyone was different, and Nakatsu understood. She hadn't done it yet. Nakatsu thought it was important for guys the same age to know where they stood in matters of their privates? What is bro yapping about? I never had these conversations with the boys as a freshman. Dr. Hokuto Umeda kicked him over, asking how Nakatsu mistaked privates for pride. Nakatsu referred to him as Dr. Sadist. Umeda was greeted by Mizuki, and he'd heard of the new student from the States. He made a somewhat quizzical observation of her, and simply walked away, telling her to visit the infirmary should she need anything. At the dorms, Mizuki spotted Sano's mailbox. Lucky again, she thought, but then realized she was sharing a room with him. Nakatsu thought Sano was greedy, having had a room all to himself all this time. But now he was sulking because he didn't want to move his stuff, having to split the room in half. Nakatsu tried assuring her she'd get used to rooming quickly. Taiki agreed, scaring Nakatsu from behind. He was Nakatsu's roommate. Surprisingly, Taiki already knew Mizuki's name. With him staring for a while, she asked what was wrong, and he told her nothing, and just walked away. Continuing her tour, Mizuki got jumped on by a dog. Yujiro's owner apologized, and Nakatsu thought it was a bit weird. Yujiro was only nice to girls. Mizuki wondered if she'd been found out. However, Nakatsu was none the wiser, saying, based off her face alone, if she told him she was a girl, he'd believe her. But since she had no boobs, he just laughed it off. She was glad her cover wasn't blown, but not thrilled about the chest touching. Finally making it to her room, Sano seemed reluctant to talk to her. She promised that what she said this morning was just a turn of phrase. She really did want to be friends, and looked up to him as a high jumper for a long time. This made sense to him. However, he was just a regular student now. He quit the high jump. She shouted, not expecting to hear that. Sano told her to get her hands off of him. It's not like he needed her permission to quit, and shortly left the room. By late evening, after Mizuki put everything away, she stepped out, walking into Minami Nanba, the second-year RA of the dorm. He, of course, came to say hi and fill her in on the dorm's rules. He thought she was adorable and assumed she got that a lot, though she denied it. In short, taking a bath in her room was off limits after midnight, and dinner was from 6 to 9. She'd get bumped into by Senni Nakao, telling her, "I'm not letting you steal my spot as the school's idol." I'll say it, this guy definitely seems gay. He ran off screaming and whining. Turns out, people were propping up Mizuki as the new school idol over him. Other guys were even buying prints of her candid photos? What? I have never been to an all-guys school. Is that it? Are they just all gay? Nanba scolded the seller, telling him to stop taking pictures that violated people's privacy. Mizuki was starting to rethink her decision to come here. Nanba then asked Mizuki to let it slide. It's not like there was much else to do here. Nikatsu came by looking for her. He wanted to invite her for dinner and warned her about talking to Nanba, saying, "A doll like you could get pregnant just talking to the likes of him." Alright, yup, that's where this anime is going. Mizuki ended up stepping away outside, having caught a glimpse of Sano. She observed him up close. He looked like he was dozing so soundly. A tennis ball dropped. It was Yujiro, wanting to play. She tried to shush him and threw the ball so she could sit beside Sano. She poked his cheek, uttering she really did love seeing him do the high jump. She caught him before he could fall over and wake up, but he'd fall over again, this time onto her shoulder, and she'd blush. The happy dog would join in next, and Sano woke up, surprised he was on top of Mizuki. Luckily, she was able to put the blame on Yujiro and make the excuse that he looked like he was sleeping so peacefully. She figured she'd block the wind for him. This got Sano to chuckle. During PE, she pondered on why she didn't ask why he quit. She did her trial run, and the guys were totally impressed by her run time. The school was all talk about how the transfer student broke the school record for the 100-meter dash. Nikatsu felt some type of way. She was faster than him. Juso Hayato, the captain of the soccer team, would approach to invite her on the team. He wanted her as a forward. However, the track team wanted her too. And so did rugby, baseball, basketball. Every team captain wanted to recruit her, with her running even faster away from them. They were even more impressed. She got away by ducking outside of a window. She noticed some feet peeking from the bushes. It was Sano again. The guy really fell asleep anywhere. She got closer and closer to his face, almost kissing it, but stopped, hearing the captain still calling for her. She wondered what she was just trying to do. Sano woke up from all the racket, spotting Mizuki, and then the captain asking if he'd seen her. Sano told him the building elsewhere, but turning back over, Mizuki was already gone. She ran away because she couldn't look him in the eye. Nikatsu would call over to her to play with him. Simple rules. If she could make even one shot in the goal behind him, she won. She was reluctant at first, but took on his challenge, only to get knocked over and knocked out by him. Sano told Nikatsu to go get the doctor, and when he picked her up, he took notice of something. She'd wake up in the infirmary, where shortly, Sano would take Nikatsu out, and Dr. Umeda closed in on her, asking what a girl like her was doing at their school. Because he found out you didn't like the video and subscribe to my channel. Here, on My Shoujo Weekly, I'm covering all the newest anime in the shoujo genre. Looking for more? Check out my completed series playlist on the main channel. There's tons and tons of hour-plus long content that you can play and keep the bad thoughts away. So come on, hit that subscribe and I'll be your guy. While visiting her grandma in middle school, the TV blared as the announcer introduced the only first-year middle school student favored to win the high jump, Izumi Sano. Mizuki at first thought he wouldn't be so impressive, but she went flush. It turned out to be the first time she saw beauty in the way someone jumped. Turning back to the present, she had no idea what to do getting caught. Sano saved her by coming back into the room with her bag. Either way, the doctor was looking forward to their next meeting. Heading back, she started thinking about how someone must have carried her. Sano came to mind, making her blush, but she assured herself it was nothing romantic. Back inside her room, she noticed Sano was already knocked out. She began to contemplate on how to deal with the doctor. Whilst Sano was thinking about the moment he picked her up, he had no doubts, wondering if he really was the only one who's noticed. He couldn't make sense of it. On their way to class in the morning, Mizuki and Nakatsu noticed guys crowding around the bulletin outside. Mizuki jolted back, seeing a photo of Sano on top of her, with the headline, "Breaking! The new transfer student's a dangerous pretty boy." Seems like the usual photo guy was up to his usual antics. Sano quickly tore it down and tossed it into the trash. He scolded Wataru, telling him the next time he tried to pull some crap like that, he'd pay. Mizuki observed the whole scene, and Wataru seething after. She socked him in the face, basically telling him to stop. The doctor was quite impressed, and suddenly grabbed her by the wrist, telling her he didn't bite. He was apparently just checking on it, saying, "Good, I don't see any swelling." She pulled away, explaining she took self-defense. He thought, good again, and was still looking forward to hearing her answer soon. After school was out, she tried to walk home with Sano, but he left immediately. She knew it. He was avoiding her. She ended up going back with Nakatsu, who noticed she was quite glum. They both assumed it had to do with the tabloid this morning. Looking at her face, she sparkled in his eyes. He wondered why his heart was pounding. Mizuki would stop, spotting Sano talking to a girl. She suddenly pulled Nakatsu away. She would later talk directly to the panting dog. Her plan was to use Yujiro as an excuse. She was just taking him for a walk, while she spied on Sano. The girl, Rika, was begging Sano to jump again. She knew he was still passionate. This was all because of the accident. He denied it, but she knew the truth. If he hadn't protected her back then, that never would have happened to him. But he told her his leg was already fully healed, and that had nothing to do with it. Quitting the high jump was his decision. Yujiro suddenly barked and dragged Mizuki out in an embarrassing fashion. She went, "Gosh, Yujiro's been insisting on taking the strangest routes on these walks. He's such a handful. Goodbye." She had a somewhat sad look shortly after. She thought the two seemed like a couple. She had no idea he had gotten into an accident. She felt like she didn't know enough. She wanted to learn more about Sano. And he, of course, appeared overhead. Walking back together to get dinner, she nervously asked about the girl from before. She told him she was really cute. Rika was just a girl he knew from middle school though. Mizuki was surprised to see that, despite Yujiro not liking guys, he liked Sano. It made sense though, since he's the one who found him. It was just after Sano moved into the dorm half a year ago. The animal shelter was trying to cart away this puppy. Two men were forcibly dragging it along, but he kept digging his paws. Before Sano knew it, he had Yujiro in his arms and was begging the janitor to keep him. Yujiro had been living with the woman and her daughter, but the woman's new husband didn't like dogs. Bruh. Husband. It was probably why Yujiro generally didn't like men. Mizuki didn't expect to see this side of Sano. A bit later, she asked why he was avoiding her today, and before he could answer, he didn't know how to treat a girl. Mizuki was about to get isekai'd. But this is high school romance, so of course Sano would save her instead. She blushed, being pinned against the wall, and with them continuing on their way, she for sure didn't want to be apart from him. Mizuki felt determined. She would later visit the doctor and give him an answer. Shortly after, walking outside, Rika went up to her, having heard all about her from Sano. Mizuki was astonished to find out Rika wasn't his girlfriend. Rika giggled. In middle school, she was the manager of the track team Izumi was on, but she also wouldn't have been opposed to dating him then. Rika asked Mizuki for a favor. During dinner, Mizuki told Sano Rika would be waiting for him beside the park tomorrow after school. He got annoyed. He was sick of everyone being worried about him. Nakatsu then came by, telling her not to mind Sano. He was the touchy type. She would then ask for some of his peach juice, and after she drank and left, he was blown away by the idea of an indirect kiss. His friend would steal it from him, unfortunately. The next day, Mizuki would find Sano staring at the high jumpers while taking Yujiro on a walk. She felt relieved. Sano told her he did end up chatting with Rika. Mizuki realized he didn't hate the high jump at all. While Mizuki showered that night, she thought back to where she told the doctor she came to this school because of a high jumper who inspired her to start track. She really grew to love it. She dreamed of doing the high jump with him one day, and didn't care if Umeda bullied her. She wasn't going to drop out, no matter what. The doctor seemed bored, however, and told her if she was trying to get somewhere by seducing him, he would have expelled her in an instant. He told her to do whatever she wanted. She suddenly hugged him from behind, and he was ambivalent, thinking women were so annoying. She asked how he figured it out, but of course, she wasn't going to fool a doctor. Also, he's gay. Sano would suddenly walk in on her finishing her shower. He had her give him his watch, and wondered why she didn't just close the curtain, but she thought it was fine, since he only saw her back. That night, Nakatsu was stuck in bed, unable to sleep. Thinking back to when Sano told him Mizuki was in the shower, he wondered why the sound of a dude in the shower bothered him. He tried to stop his mind from imagining what her body looked like. He swore he liked women! Sano, Mizuki, and Nakatsu would come to class late. They looked like they barely got any sleep, and were tagged the three baggy-eyed brothers. They couldn't even stay up during lectures. So, the teacher told them to come to his office after class. When they went, one of Nakatsu's friends wasn't surprised to see him. Nakatsu seemed worried. Mizuki bent close, asking if something was bothering him. As he looked down at her beautiful face, he ran out feeling embarrassed. While everyone else went to get lunch, Mizuki told him she was off to buy some bread. But really, she was suffering from the first day of Shark Week. She never rued being a girl as much as she did on this day. On her way out of the nurse's office, she thought about how Dr. Umeda finding out she was a girl actually helped her. Still, it left her a bit conflicted. She'd bump into Rika, who asked her to stay away from Sano. Rika had a feeling she was following him around. Before Mizuki could explain herself, Rika shot at her. "You don't know anything!" This Sano, who quit high jump, who couldn't win. This wasn't him, but Mizuki told her she was the clueless one. Just because Sano wasn't jumping didn't mean he was worthless. She didn't care for his fancy titles. She just loved seeing the way he jumped. Enraged by her words, Rika was about to hit Mizuki. That's when Sano would show up, stopping her. Rika claimed she was doing this all for him, but when did he ever ask her for that? The reason he couldn't jump was that he choked under pressure, and she knew this well. He told her to never come back here, then stormed off with Mizuki. Mizuki pulled away, scolding him for talking to Rika like that. But at this point, he didn't care anymore. On her way to her room, she'd collect a package waiting for her. Noe and Sakemi saw her with the box, and immediately reminded her they were buddies. These two guys just want to share of whatever was in it. Shortly after, she'd seen Nakatsu pacing in front of her door. He turned his back to her while telling her that he wanted to share some sweets his mom brought. Seeing how Mizuki's eyes lit up, Nakatsu thought she was so cute. Entering her room, she opened her box, which was filled with all kinds of snacks. Sakemi and Noe would help themselves to the ones they wanted. Luckily, there wasn't anything incriminating inside. While looking through the rest of the box, a photo of Julia dropped. Nakatsu assumed she was Mizuki's girlfriend, but he'd be relieved to hear they were just best friends. There was something else wrapped tightly with a letter attached to it. Reading the letter, she got a bad feeling about this. But before she could stop the boys, they tore the package open, revealing a dress. She played it off, claiming it was a silly joke from her brother. Sano then walked in, dropping his bag on the table and ignoring Mizuki. He'd quickly leave to take Yujiro on a walk. After a call with Julia cheering her up, Mizuki was determined to fix things with Sano. As soon as he got back, she tried to spark up conversation, but he barely replied to her before completely ignoring her again. She wouldn't let up though. She'd keep trying to talk to him at any chance she got. It had been 5 days since their fight. She tried everything, but nothing was working. Slowly, she was starting to lose hope. When Sano got back to the room, she tried striking her conversation again, but all she got were dry answers. Mizuki explained that this reminded her of newlyweds fighting. Sano was fed up. Pinning her back against the wall, he asked her if she knew why he even spoke to Rika like that. Did she ever think anything through? He then stormed out of the room. Nakatsu was thinking about how jealous he'd been when Sano walked past him. Sensing something wrong, he rushed into the room to meet Mizuki. Unable to hold it in any longer, Mizuki broke down in front of him, tears flowing endlessly. Nakatsu wanted to hold her, but he couldn't. So, he'd pat her head, telling her to let it all out. At the same time, Sano didn't get how he was the only one getting so worked up about this. Everything was so messed up. Getting back to the room, he saw Nakatsu's shoes at the front of the door and turned back immediately. The next day, Mizuki's eyes were so swollen that she couldn't get out of bed early, thanks to all the crying. Nanba approached her from behind, and seeing her red eyes, he offered to hear her out. Nakatsu would confront Sano on the rooftop, asking how he felt about Mizuki, so far as it meant she wouldn't cry like that again. Nakatsu didn't mind becoming gay. Bro is so desperate to find an excuse. Buddy, if you want to be gay, just be gay. Sano told him to stop butting in on what he didn't understand. He caught a glimpse of Mizuki and Nanba, so he bolted off to save her from that womanizer. But when he got down, they were nowhere to be found. Wataru knew where they were, but only wanted to spill it in the photos he'd release tomorrow. But under the pressure of Sano's threats, he confessed the two had gone to the student council room. Rushing off, Sano wondered why he was so bothered in the first place. Getting to the council room, he'd find Mizuki and Nanba having coffee. As Nanba stepped out, he warned Sano to stop bullying their idol. Sano would then explain to Mizuki why he quit jumping. The district qualifiers were a special meet. Doing well there earned you a recommendation to a famous track and field school. In middle school, he thought it was his last chance. But one night, he'd save Rika from getting isekai'd. If he had really tried, he might have been able to avoid that. But he hesitated for a moment, which was the reason he choked under pressure. However, Sano's mindset had changed. He wanted to try jumping again. He wasn't about to let himself live with regret a second time. Mizuki was so happy that he told her this. She ended up crying like a baby. He'd pull her close, comforting her. Mizuki blushed hard. Then, she asked what made him change his mind. He thought it was best to try and take it seriously. This made her question if he wasn't trying his best at jumping before. He'd walk away at the sound of the bell, thinking she was so dense. In the locker room after practice, Sano would see a towel and a bottle of water with a note saying, "Good work." He already knew who this was from. Entering his room, he handed Mizuki a bottle of juice, and she was happy to see that he noticed her little gesture. Then again, if it was weird for a dude to leave a towel out for another dude, was it more of a girly gesture? Meanwhile, he had no idea what to say to a girl, and she didn't know that he knew she was a girl already. So they both figured it was fine. Before he got out of the bathroom, she was already done dressing up. She was used to speed changing now and ready to head out. But he'd stop her, fixing up her messy hair like she was some little kid. In the cafeteria, he decided to order the same as her. Despite all that happened, Sano finally rejoined the track team. Now, Mizuki's dream of witnessing his heroic figure was on the verge of coming true. Turns out, everyone was having kitsune udon just like them. Noticing some guys excited about the upcoming softball match, Mizuki asked why the guys always got excited about sports. Noe yelled out that it was all because there were going to be girls in the crowd. Still, she didn't get it. He elaborated further that they were an all-boys school and barely got the chance to meet girls. So, a game against a co-ed school meant the chance to find someone. Sometimes, it even felt like the guys going to watch were more serious than the athletes. Back in class, Nakatsu was trying to pull himself together. He was blushing hard, overthinking how to talk to Mizuki, but he worked up the courage to ask her if she'd come cheer on their school during the soccer game. He was overjoyed, hearing her agree to come. Everyone else seemed confused by his behavior. The excitement got wiped off his face when Mizuki showed up with the rest of the guys. What did he expect? As the match started, he was determined to score shot after shot to show off his good side. After the match, Mizuki congratulated him on winning. With her cute charm, she said, "You were really cool out there." And this got him so thrilled, thinking she was the only one on his side. Kagarazaka would then approach Sano, hearing that he was back on the track team. They had once fought over the gold medal in high jump. He teased Sano, asking if he could jump now, or whether he'd get spooked and run again. Mizuki wasn't about to let that slide. She called him back, telling him that he was the only scared boy on the block now that Sano was back with the track team. Then, it clicked to her that she must have sounded girly right now. Luckily, he wasn't onto her. He didn't care much, but was looking forward to meeting Sano again, and the little Missy. Back in her room, Mizuki was pissed. Kagura was such a jerk. Still, she had never heard of him before. According to Sekime, he was so good that no one his age could beat his records. That was until Sano showed up 3 years ago. Since then, Kagura saw him as a rival. However, Sano didn't pay him any mind. Mizuki was so angry thinking about it, she couldn't even do her homework. Sano then let her know the shower was free to use. Looking back at her, he told her she looked like a monkey, and it was all because of that stunt she pulled. But he would thank her nonetheless. She thought he was so coy. Shortly after, they were staring at a box of lemons Kayashima's family sent. Even if they used the lemons for cooking and tea, they still wouldn't finish it all. The next day, Mizuki showed Nakatsu a way to use the lemons by trying them in a hot pot. While thinking about having a hot pot party, Kagura would meet her and ask where the track team practice was. He couldn't believe she was a guy and could have sworn she was a chick. She wasn't about to tell him anything, so he'd lift her onto his shoulder, forcing her to become his guide. Getting into the track field, Mizuki apologized to Sano, explaining that Kagura just grabbed her. Sano told Kagura to kindly put her down. He was upset, but Kagura didn't get why. Once Mizuki was put down, she slapped Kagura super hard. Before he could retaliate, Sano stopped him, asking him to back off. Asking to borrow Mizuki next time was the last straw. Sano grabbed his shirt, but Kagura did the same, vowing to crush him with everything he had. That was if he was even worth it in his current state. Mizuki wanted to talk back, but Sano shut her up. Why was he letting Kagura talk to him like that? She couldn't stand it. So, she yelled that the likes of him could never crush Sano, and he better remember that. Kagura wasn't fazed, until she called him a stumpy-legged kitsune. The last one got Sano giggling, though he tried to hold in his laughter. Even in the cafeteria, the thought of it still got him laughing. Later that evening, Mizuki went to check on Yujiro. Petting the dog, she told him about the first time she saw Sano on TV, and she was in awe. That was the first time she saw beauty in the way someone jumped. Right around then, she got into a fight with a friend in class. Every time Sano hit another personal best, she got into a little rush, feeling like she could try her hardest too. The friend from back then was her best friend now, and the one who made it possible by giving Mizuki the courage to talk to Sano Unbeknownst to her, he was close by, listening to everything she said. He'd walk up, asking her to come with him tomorrow, so he could show her his high jump. The next day, nothing but joy filled Mizuki. She could hardly believe she was about to see it with her own eyes. If only it were what she expected. Sano messed up the jump. He kept trying, but the results were the same, always hitting the bar. She begged him to stop. He felt pathetic. He couldn't even clear a mid-height jump like this. Her hands held his tightly. With her trembling voice, she promised he'd be able to jump perfectly again. He told her a guy in high school shouldn't be whimpering like this. She gave him this chance, a way forward for him, not running from his past. She was the one who showed him how to face the high jump again, so he asked her to get it together. In the infirmary, Umeda explained to her that Sano was suffering from something mental. His body remembered the intense pain it experienced, and so it acted unconsciously on its own, trying to avoid it more. Suddenly, he'd come from behind the curtain in a ridiculous outfit, telling her it was dance time. They apparently loved the show he put on in it at his college reunion the other day. Changing back, he told her to stop overthinking. Everyone had obstacles that they themselves must overcome. It was then that they most needed someone who was waiting and ready to catch them. Mizuki didn't know if she could do that, so he told her to start with what she could. Thinking of how to cheer up Sano, she'd bump into Nakatsu, causing him to spill the items for the hot pot party tonight. Sekime then came in with drinks, and with the stove ready, they were all set. During the party, Mizuki poured a grape drink for Sano, where shortly after, he decided to step out. His head felt heavy. Something wasn't right. Mizuki would decide to go check on him, seeing that he hadn't returned yet. At the same time, Nanba came across the guys having the hot pot party, and his eyes caught the sight of the bottle of wine that had been uncorked. It seemed to be the gift meant for Umeda. Mizuki got into the room and noticed Sano's face was red. She wondered if he was sick. He'd lean in, causing her to back up against the cupboard. Still out of his sense, he'd suddenly kiss her. Flustered, Mizuki pushed back and punched Sano. Then, she'd run out of the room, panicking. Outside with Yujiro, tears poured down her face. She liked Sano so much, yet she wondered why she couldn't stop crying. The next day, Sano came to class with a black eye, unable to remember what even happened. Nakatsu felt he should have taken the day off, but Sano didn't want to. On the side, Mizuki couldn't help but feel nervous. She'd approach, handing him a handkerchief to cool down the bruise, all while avoiding his gaze. After that, she quickly left, knowing she was the one who gave him the black eye. During lunch break, he'd thank her for putting a blanket over him last night. The guilt eating her up was so much that she could barely talk to him before running again. She wondered if he really didn't remember anything from last night. As her mind flashed back to the kiss, she was flushed all over again. Namba then asked if someone made her cry. She tried to deny it, but he couldn't fool her with lies. Taking a seat, Mizuki told him that her head was having a hard time keeping up with an unexpected turn of events. He'd lean in close to her face, offering to cheer her up and make her forget about all her troubles, even give her some nice memories. That smooth talk would have worked, but she had to remind him she was a guy. Of course, he was only joking. He then let her know that a bottle of alcohol got mixed up with their drinks during the hot pot party. Realizing what caused Sano to kiss her, Mizuki was red all over again, but she lied to Nanba about knowing who drank from the bottle. He'd then give her a snack for keeping her, and unknown to them, Umeda was watching, as well as another pair of eyes. After class, Mizuki recalled her dad had a friend who started indiscriminately kissing people when drunk. She wondered if Sano was just like that. Opening her locker, thousands of thumbtacks poured out, and inside, an ominous letter read, "Kill you." Picking up a second piece of paper from the ground, it read, "Die." Sano would rip it up, claiming it was just a prank and telling her not to worry. On the other hand, Nakatsu was scared to the bone. This was obviously a threat. So, he proposed they walk home together. Mizuki insisted she was fine, and decided to head out alone. Since she was supposed to be a guy now, she couldn't be freaking out over things like this. Nakatsu would tell Sano that he was being a bit mean to Mizuki. Then, some members of the tennis team came looking for her. When they came asking Sano, he coldly told them to get lost, leaving Nakatsu wondering if he was really pissed off. In her room, Mizuki realized someone must hate her, but she couldn't figure out what she did to make them that angry. Rather than let it bother her, she didn't have time to get distracted. She was way more worried about Sano. At that moment, he entered the room, curious as to why she was worried about him. She asked if his eye was still sore, and he answered it hurt when he pressed down on it, but it wasn't a big deal. That was a relief for her. Still, she felt a bit awkward looking at his face. Refusing to let things remain awkward, she asked him to get changed so they could head to the dining hall together. It finally dawned on her that Sano was her first kiss. She'd fall to her knees. The shock had put it clean out of her mind when it happened. The next day, everyone gathered around, waiting for her to open her locker. It was all clear, and she felt a sense of relief, though it'd be cut short as she picked up her shoes. They were completely soaked and dripping. Nakatsu was really upset on her behalf, but she refused to let this get to her. After all, she could simply air out the shoes. Her mind was made up. If Sano faced any obstacles, she'd be the one who was there for him. So, she didn't have any time to waste worrying about this stuff. Later, Umeda approached Sano, telling him that something was going on with his roommate, and advised him to keep an eye out for Mizuki. That night, while Mizuki was talking to Nakatsu and the others about her brother, Nakao showed up, calling it all stupid. He mocked her for being 16 and still bragging about her older brother, even claiming she was still breastfeeding, as if there were an age to stop having a cool older brother. Nakatsu wouldn't stand for it. He yelled at Nakao, demanding he apologize to Mizuki. That's when Nanba showed up, asking why they were yelling. He made it clear that he didn't like what Nakao was doing. Then, Nakao stormed off. After Nanba left, Noe speculated that Nakao might be the one bullying Mizuki. Sekime also agreed. After all, Nakao had lost a school idol vote to her once. Mizuki asked that they drop the whole thing. She felt these were just baseless accusations. The next day in class, her desk was painted boldly with the word moron. Trying to keep it together, she didn't want this to get to her, but she was finally fed up and ready to figure out who was behind this. Hiding behind a wall, she waited until the culprit approached her locker. Grabbing his hand, she couldn't believe her eyes. It was Nakao. So obvious, by the way. As his phone dropped, it revealed a wallpaper of Nanba. Now she understood his reason. Before she could explain, he shot at her, saying, "I hate you!" Ever since she came to the school, Nanba had been paying more attention to her, even though he was here long before her. The thought of it made him feel so pathetic, and Nakao believed Nanba would never notice him now. So, he told her to go tell all the teachers and students if she wanted. On the contrary, Mizuki wanted to be friends. She understood how he felt, knowing what it was like to fall for someone. That was why she thought they could actually be pretty good friends. Nakao thought she was weird, but they'd laugh about it while walking out together. Close by was Sano, who watched and overheard the whole thing. Shortly after, Mizuki met up with him outside, letting him know she caught the culprit. But they were all good now. Walking back together, she wished she could always walk next to him like this. Suddenly, Kagarazaka showed up. Mizuki immediately walked up to him, pushing him to leave, but he'd put her in a headlock. Then, he asked Sano to join the spring preliminaries, given that he had set a new record. He saw this as the perfect chance to crush Sano in front of as many spectators as possible. As Kagarazaka left, Mizuki seemed worried about his new record, but Sano told her not to worry. Afterwards, he'd go to practice his high jump, and she was thrilled to see him make the jump this time. On their way back, he asked if it wouldn't have been better for her to go home for the winter break. But she just got here, so she didn't see the need. Plus, if he was going to train, there was no way she'd miss not being with him. Two girls from Tokyo High School came by, giving Mizuki a present. Then, she recalled it was Valentine's Day, but it wasn't like the girl was asking her out. It was just a way to show gratitude for standing up to Kagarazaka. Though she felt conflicted, Mizuki accepted. The second girl gave hers to Sano. She had been a fan of his since middle school and was happy to see he was getting back on track. She also used this chance to ask him out, and seeing this, Mizuki felt a tightness in her chest. Although he declined the girl, the feeling in Mizuki's chest wasn't stopping. Later, she told Dr. Umeda what happened. He told her she was wet behind the ears and found it adorable. It wasn't like she could tell Sano she was a girl, hence her jealousy. She had no idea what to do about it. So, Umeda told her to simply reveal herself, but Mizuki couldn't possibly do that. She questioned if she wanted to stay by Sano's side. Did it mean she couldn't love him unless she was a girl? Mizuki felt a lot better after talking to him, and Umeda claimed they were cut from the same cloth. He too suffered from unrequited love. His best friend from high school had a cruel and terrible personality, the kind of guy who knew exactly how Umeda felt, and still manipulated while pretending to be none the wiser. Mizuki would then get a text from her brother, telling her that he was coming to Japan and looking forward to seeing her. Barging into the infirmary, Mizuki would interrupt Umeda's sweet session with his lover. That aside, she desperately needed him to lend her an outfit for a young lady. He told her to figure it out herself, but he was the only one she could depend on. Since he was ignoring her, she turned to leave, but he'd then tell her to wait. The next morning, she'd sneak out of her room, finding a place to dress up. When she came out, she was dazzling in a cute outfit. It had been so long since she wore a skirt. Thanks to Umeda, his little sister, Rio, was able to help out with an outfit. Unknown to her, Sana was spying nearby, and seeing her in that outfit made him think she really looked like a girl. Meeting up with her brother, Shizuki, Mizuki would jump into his arms. They were so happy to see each other. He'd lift her up, giving her a kiss on the cheeks. And now, everyone was staring at them. Oh god, is this for the brother lovers? Seeing she cut her hair, Shizuki was moved to tears. He really loved her hair. They'd stop to get drinks. There, he told her he was in Japan on an exchange program between their office and Japanese medical schools for 2 weeks. For these 2 weeks, she'd have to keep him from knowing she was attending an all-boys school. The whole thing was still getting to him. She told him she was old enough to make decisions for herself now. When he asked if she met the famous high jumper, Mizuki quickly excused herself and decided she'd show him around Tokyo next time. Her brother always had a thing against Sano, so it was best to keep her mouth shut. In school, while Mizuki and Nakao were chatting away, Nakatsu was filled with jealousy, wondering when they had gotten so close. Pouring out his troubles, Nakao complained about the cold reply he got from Nanba this morning. Mizuki totally understood how he felt. If your crush was curt with you, it could throw your whole day off. To him, they were the only ones who knew what this felt like. But Mizuki didn't know actually how he felt. Nakatsu would interrupt them, trying to get in on their chat. But Nakao told him it was a meeting for cute boys only. Nakatsu felt insulted. He questioned what part of him wasn't cute. And for starters, Nakao said he had no sense of aesthetics. While they argued, Mizuki used that chance to slip away. She'd then bump into Sano, asking where he'd been. He mentioned that he was talking to the team supervisor. Seems he planned to compete in the preliminaries. After school, she wished him luck as he went for practice. She was certain that he'd be able to jump when the time came. Shizuki called out her name from behind. Oops, busted. He questioned why she was at a boys' school. She tried to explain, but he wasn't having it. Grabbing her hand, he demanded she come with him, and she resorted to biting his arm as she struggled to break free. Sano would come back, telling Shizuki to let go. Seeing this was the Sano his sister was obsessed over, Shizuki immediately accused him of seducing his sister. Oh! Shizuki demanded to see Sano's famous high jump. After all, it was why Mizuki came here. He wanted to get it over with. But Mizuki mistakenly blurted out that Sano was still recovering from the aftermath of an accident. After getting the gist of the situation, Shizuki decided his sister could remain in Japan only on one condition. Sano would have to clear the high jump before it was time for him to leave. With this, Sano decided to pick up his training before the preliminaries, so he asked Mizuki to handle walking Yujiro for the time being. By evening, she came to the field where Sano was practicing. Staring at him, she felt helpless, unable to offer any aid. Nakatsu would show up, noticing she looked down, but she assured him it was nothing, so he invited her to hang out once she was done walking Yujiro. Shortly after, they'd stop by a restaurant where he'd treat her to as much as she wanted. He usually came here, but it was his first time bringing someone. He was kind of feeling homesick. When he first came to Tokyo, he was the only one from Osaka. So, whenever he felt really alone, he'd come here, reminding himself that he wasn't alone. The okonomiyaki tasted just like home. Those words moved Mizuki, and she thanked him. Getting back to the room, she tried not to wake Sano, but he could smell the food she was carrying. She had brought some okonomiyaki for him. As he sat to eat, she mustered up the courage to wish him good luck, saying that one little thing took so much thought and energy for her. He told her it was the least she should be saying to make the jump worth it for him. However, his first goal was to beat Kagarazaka. Her thing was secondary. So he asked her to stop endlessly worrying and cheer up. Despite just eating, he asked if she wanted to get dinner. He was going to need a lot more energy for what was at stake. The next day, Shizuki was walking around the school grounds in a dark suit and shades, thinking this was the best disguise. However, Umeda and everyone else noticed him. He stood out like a sore thumb. Umeda would ask if he needed help, and when Shizuki mentioned his sibling attended this school, the doctor figured he was Mizuki's brother. He'd be invited into the doctor's office. There, Shizuki mentioned that he didn't have a bad impression of the school, but he hadn't seen anything great either. Umeda then told him about an unusual transfer student, someone who was here to chase a high jumper they admired. You'd almost think he was a girl, based on how sweet she was. Unable to handle the pressure, Shizuki would have to take his leave. Meanwhile, Mizuki was helping out Sano on the field. With their faces so close, she was flush, recalling her first kiss with him. Flustered, she'd accidentally slammed the tablet on his face. Just then, Kagarazaka showed up, grabbing Sano's collar. He asked why he was still carrying that baggage around. He called Sano out for abandoning the high jump after his injury. But Sano didn't care about whatever he said. He made a promise to Mizuki not to run away again. So, this time, he was jumping for himself, and the preliminaries were the first step in that direction. Still, Kagarazaka wasn't going to let him get away with quitting while he was ahead. Afterwards, Sano asked Mizuki what she'd do if he couldn't jump again. She told him her brother would most likely drag her back home, but she wanted to stay in Japan, here in Osaka. He told her to stay then. If that was what she wanted to do, he wanted her to follow her heart. However, Shizuki declared it wasn't his place to say. Showing up in front of them, he made it clear that he'd take Mizuki back if he couldn't jump. Time was ticking. Sano had less than a week. It seemed impossible Mizuki would stand up for him, letting her brother know that Sano was doing his best. But Shizuki claimed a high jumper who couldn't jump was nothing but pathetic. Sano didn't say a word back. He simply left when the coach called for him. Furious, Mizuki screamed at her brother, "I hate you!" Struck by her words, he'd fall to his knees. It was like all of a sudden, trying to get his baby sister out of a boys' school felt like a crime now. He questioned if God was dead. A few days later, Mizuki sat by a corner with Yujiro, waiting for Sano. When he showed up, she mentioned how she told her brother off, but he ignored it, asking what was for dinner. Then told her to forget about the whole thing. Case closed. His words would make her fall in love with him even more. A few days later, the stadium was packed with so many spectators. There, Mizuki and her friends met up with Shizuki, and she thanked him for coming. Before the competition started, she'd meet up with Sano, giving him what she thought was a good luck charm, but it was actually a love and marriage charm. Apparently, she asked Nakao for help, which honestly explains it. Nevertheless, Sano was happy to accept it. Shizuki sat beside Nakatsu, asking him what kind of person Sano was, but he'd have to watch and find out for himself. Soon after, Sano was called up to make his jump. Mizuki prayed desperately for him as he took off, and taking off, Sano floated beautifully midair, and once he landed, the bar was still in place. He made it! Seeing that, Shizuki would take his leave. Filled with so much joy, Mizuki couldn't stop crying. Sano would embrace her warmly there, until the referee broke them up. As far as high jumps went, his was still pretty low, but his form was better than anyone else's. This was still just the beginning. Kakurazaka would tell him to stop spacing out and work his way up until Sano was on par with him. Though he didn't express it well, he too was rooting for Sano. After the competition, Mizuki got a text from her brother asking her to at least come home for Christmas and New Year's. Unfortunately, Sano didn't make it past the preliminaries, but it was still a huge step for him, and as of today, Mizuki was a second-year student at Osaka Private High School. Mizuki was met with bad news with the term coming to an end. Dorm 2 was undergoing renovations, so they were all asked to go home for summer break. Nanba came by, explaining that the deteriorated water pipes needed to be replaced. In the cafeteria, Mizuki looked so dejected. All this after she made a big scene with her brother about not going back home. She didn't like the idea of having to go back to the States. While lost in thought, Sano smacked her head, telling her to eat her food properly. Staring at them, Noe said Sano looked like a mother cat, diligently grooming her kitten. Feeling embarrassed, Sano decided to head back to his room. Mizuki wanted to follow behind, but he'd tell her to stay back and finish her food. The others felt he changed since she showed up. It was like he was more cheerful and less guarded about his emotions. Unlike before, when he used to keep the guys at arm's length, he was much more closed off then, and that had him and Nakatsu butting heads all the time. Though it was more of Nakatsu refusing to let it go. Either way, Sano's aura and vibe weren't so bad now. Soon after, Nakatsu came to Mizuki's door, trying to convince himself that nothing was weird about this. He told himself he just wanted to invite her to his place if she had nowhere else to go. He was inviting her to hang out together, eat together, bathe together. He was losing his mind over the fact he might be gay. Sano would approach behind him, so they'd enter the room together. Gathering the courage, Nakatsu asked Mizuki if she'd be okay staying at his place. It was in Osaka, and they had plenty of spare rooms. He was certain his mom would welcome her. Not wanting to risk getting found out, she would have to decline his offer. As he left the room, he sank to his knees, completely heartbroken. Meanwhile, Sano then invited Mizuki over to his place. However, they'd have to share a room. But since they'd already been doing that, he let her know she wouldn't need to worry about being considerate. So, she decided to give it some thought. By nighttime, Mizuki hadn't thought of anywhere she could go. So, she forced herself to sleep. Hours later, Sano was shocked to see her go into his bunk, lying down beside him. You'd think she'd be a little more cautious. He tried to wake her up, but she'd lay her hands and chest on him, leaving him in a tight situation. By morning, she was startled seeing him next to her. He explained that she sleepwalked into his bed, and she apologized. Realizing she wasn't wearing her binder, she feared he might have found out. She'd tell him that they were both guys. In other words, it shouldn't have mattered. However, he barely got a wink of sleep. It was insane how unguarded she was. Later, At the infirmary, Mizuki offered to do any kind of chores for Umeda if he would let her stay at his place. He refused, mostly because starting tomorrow, he'd be off on a passionate vacation to a southern island. The hot soul of the southern lands was beckoning him. Just then, Rio walked in, looking completely pissed off. She reminded her brother that today was the end of term ceremony, and she hadn't been able to reach him. He was supposed to help out at the Hayama boarding house. As Nanba walked in, calling Umeda his uncle, Mizuki was shocked at how familiar the three of them were with each other. Nanba was their nephew, which made Rio his auntie, even though she was much younger. Nanba would tell Umeda that his mother was pestering him about the Hayama boarding house thing. The doctor, however, had no plans of setting foot there. That was until he heard Nanba's mom was coming here to pick him up. He was out of there on the double, telling his nephew to send his regards to the demon witch. And just as he got to the door, the said witch was right there. Talk about bad timing. Frightened, he backed up as Io pressed him, asking where he was going. As she grabbed him by the throat, he finally spilled he was going to the southern islands. She thought he was heartless. She'd been asking him to keep this summer open for over a year, but he was just being cruel. She could hardly believe they were related. He called her a dirty hag in his head, and ended up roping Mizuki into this, saying she was itching to work for Io. Scanning Mizuki's face, Io seemed to like her. Mizuki reminded her of when she used to play dress-up with Umeda. As she turned back, the doctor was already gone. Afterwards, Mizuki told Sano about the gig at the Hayama boarding house. It came with a room and board, meaning she didn't have to worry about where to stay. He decided to sign up as well, since he was looking for a part-time job. Refusing to be left out, Nakatsu would join too. So long as he breathed, he wasn't about to let the two of them be alone. At the boarding house, Io asked Mizuki to serve a plate. She appreciated her help, especially since they were so short-handed this year. The only people she'd been able to hire were two local college students. Sano and Nakatsu were also a huge help. Mizuki didn't mind. After all, they were in a tough situation, being kicked out of their dorm. Io then called over the mail worker, Makita, who was flirting with some female customers. She told him that his romantic life was his own, but made it clear that if he touched anyone, he'd be fired. Looking at Mizuki, he suddenly donned a sinister expression. While working, he'd get all touchy around and extremely close while guiding her on what to do. Noticing this, Sano was pissed. He'd call her over to help with the dishes. Then, she remembered she had to feed Yujiro, placing his arm around her shoulder. Makito asked to go with her, saying he loved dogs. Unable to simply stand by and watch, Nakatsu decided to follow them. As Mizuki was feeding Yujiro, Makita asked which one of the two boys was her boyfriend. She tried to explain it wasn't like that, letting him know that she was a he, but he took it as she liked to go by male pronouns. He'd call her Mizuki-kun if she wanted. As Nakatsu showed up, she yelled at Makita, saying she was a guy, but he loved her naivety. Walking back together, Mizuki noticed Nakatsu was pissed, but he claimed it was nothing. Being all sweaty, she decided to go change. In the room, while trying to zip up her binder, it was quite tight. Then, it hit her. She gained weight, and it was thanks to Io's delicious cooking. Over in the kitchen, Nakatsu asked Sano if Makita pissed him off. He hated the way he was all creepy around Mizuki, and it made him worry. Sano told him it was none of their business. Hearing that, Nakatsu was hurt. Unlike Sano and Mizuki, who shared a room, he got a single, making him feel lonely. He'd run away, crying. Makita then came in, and Sano's expression switched up. Makita admired the way they were all close friends, but Sano definitely didn't like this guy. The following day, Mizuki was stunned, seeing the name of one of the guests they'd have to attend to. It turned out to be Kagarazaka and his family. Seeing Mizuki and her friends, Kagarazaka already assumed the food here would taste awful. Nakatsu called him an idiot for saying that, but he'd end up getting scolded by Io. Then she apologized on his behalf and assured Kagarazaka that all meals were prepared by her. Seeing her pretty face, he was flush. Then she mentioned that his reservation was for 4 people. Apparently, his family's temple had a sudden change of plans, so he was here in his parents' place. Taking notice of Sano, his sister freaked out. She couldn't believe he was real. Her brother told her that he had made a comeback, but she never would have imagined running into him here. She introduced herself as Tamami, and she'd been his fan ever since her first year of middle school. Embarrassed by her, Kagarazaka would drag his sister away. Meanwhile, his baby sister, Kiyomi, would mistake Nakatsu for her older brother. Mizuki would then carry the little girl to her room. She'd accidentally walk in on Tamami getting changed. Luckily, it was just a swimsuit. Tamami would then invite Mizuki in. She was so happy about meeting Sano, and was glad she forced her brother to bring her here. Their folks wouldn't let her come with just friends, since she was just a second year in middle school. Staring at her chest, Mizuki was quite jealous. Tamami asked her if Sano had a girlfriend. Flustered, Mizuki answered that she didn't know, and Tamami took it as he was free for the taking. This was her chance to snag him with her hot body. Pause. I'm not saying that. Tamami's saying that about herself. Mizuki couldn't believe what she just heard. During lunch, Mizuki barely touched her food. It was because she didn't want to gain weight, given that her chest felt really tight. She'd come across Sano cleaning up. But before she could say anything, Tamami rushed in, hugging him from behind. He explained that he was working and asked her to get off, but she refused. Mizuki, who was staring speechless, was interrupted by Makita, asking her to help change the light bulbs at the entrance. Suddenly, a sharp pain hit her chest, and she passed out. Sano would rush to the scene, carrying her away, but it only served to make Makita's suspicions grow more. When Mizuki came to, she recalled she couldn't breathe all of a sudden because of the tight binder she forced herself to wear. Sano suggested calling a doctor, but she insisted she was fine. So, he asked her to just rest for the day while he returned to work. Realizing he was leaving, she suddenly held him back. Getting flush, she apologized and felt embarrassed. He leaned in, asking if she wanted him to stay, and with her blushing hard, she nodded in agreement. He'd agreed to stay, at least till she fell asleep. Meanwhile, Nakatsu found himself at the door, overthinking whether or not to go in. He felt he would be a bother, but at the same time, if he didn't check on Mizuki, he'd be too worried to live. Io would smack him, telling him to cut the one-man show and get back to work. Hours later, Mizuki woke up from a long sleep. By then, Sano was gone. Seeing how much she sweated, she headed straight into the shower. Getting out of the binder was such a relief for her. Pinching her sides, it was obvious she had put on some weight. While she was soaking in the tub, she heard Nakatsu's voice as he came in. The panic set in. She forgot to lock the bathroom doors. Just as she turned her back, he opened the doors, but he closed them quickly, which left her a bit confused. Now Nakatsu was wondering if this was a chance for them to bathe together. On the other hand, the good part of his mind tried telling him how wrong it was. But the degenerate side of him didn't see anything wrong about two bros getting in the bath together. Reaching for the door, he tried convincing himself that Mizuki was just another guy. But the thought of it just wouldn't let him go on with it. Taking a peek, she'd find him passed out on the ground, bleeding from the nose. She tossed a towel on his face and quickly grabbed her clothes, then left to get someone to help. The next morning, Mizuki watched Sano from the window. He was trying to get in some training to be ready for the next tournament. He looked like he was enjoying himself, and she too enjoyed watching him. Tamami ruined the moment again. She started pestering him about going to the beach with her, but it's not like he ever made that promise. While Sano held Tamami down, Makita approached Mizuki. Sano quickly noticed, looking at the two of them. Makita would give him a sinister smirk, and Sano didn't find it funny one bit. Makita was going to buy some stuff later, so he asked Mizuki to tag along. As he left, she was approached by Kagarazaka, who was curious as to who Makita was. He pointed out that they seemed to be hanging out a lot, so he asked her about Sano. She told him it wasn't like she and Sano were together all the time, and that they had different work tasks. But he thought it was unlike her. Even though Tamami was annoying, Kagarazaka felt Mizuki was more of a loose cannon. He actually appreciated that side of her and told her to stop looking so down. She teased him about trying to cheer her up, but he tried playing the "I don't care whatever happens to you two." She then mentioned he must have a thing for Sano, and embarrassed, he made it clear he liked women. Either way, he let her know that he didn't like Makita's vibe. Shortly after, Mizuki helped Makita take out some groceries from the car. She thought he was a really nice person. She and Sano finally got a break, and just as she left to get some drinks, Tamami came bothering Sano again. Makita came over, saying Mizuki looked like an abandoned kitten. He offered her a drink, asking her to share the break with him. Seeing how nice he was, she just couldn't think of him as a bad guy. While they chatted away, Sano kept watching them as Tamami kept giving him a world of trouble. Later at night, Io told them they'd be able to go to the beach the next day since they were taking a special break between guest checkouts. Back in her room, the thought of going to the beach excited Mizuki, but she wondered if she'd even be able to get into the water. Sano then asked if Makita had done anything weird to her. He was worried. Makita was being all touchy, putting his arm around her shoulder, but she claimed he was just being friendly. She obviously had no idea what he was after, which was why Sano was trying to warn her. Still, she insisted it was normal to be friendly like that back in the States. She then complained about the way he was being all friendly with the big-chested Tamami. She stormed out of the room. With her back against the door, she regretted her words. It wasn't like they were lovers, and she didn't think they could become like that. After all, she was a boy right now. Looking at her chest, Mizuki noticed something. The binder probably wasn't tight because she gained weight, but probably because she got bigger there. She was over the moon, but this wasn't the time. She couldn't properly enjoy it. At the beach the next day, She happened to be the only one wearing a sweater. Nakatsu questioned it, but she said she was just playing it safe. Mayumi and Io met up with them, and the ladies were looking pretty. Then, Nakatsu just had to run off his mouth, talking about how Io's hat gave off her age, and how it was screaming she'd rather die than get the slightest tan. So, he'd get knocked down to the hot sand while everyone else ran off to have fun. As everyone played beach ball in the water, Mizuki could only stand and watch. Shortly after, while staring at Sano in the water, she thought about how they hadn't talked since she crashed out. She approached him, apologizing for what happened yesterday. Before he could get a word in, you guessed it, Tamami came running to him again. Kagarazaka needs to put a leash on this girl. Mizuki decided to leave, but Tamami would drag her to the side, asking if Sano hated the color orange. Because of her orange swimsuit, of course. Being a nice person, Mizuki told her he'd like girls in bright colors, and assured he wouldn't have a problem with it. With the brightest smile, Tamami thanked her. Mizuki just couldn't bring herself to hate the girl. Afterwards, Mizuki went off looking for Nakatsu and the others. Some guys approached her, trying to get her attention, and obviously she wanted nothing to do with them and tried walking away, but they dragged her back. Sano caught sight of what was happening and quickly ran to save her. Before he could get there, Makita showed up, taking her away from the guys. He warned that standing around looking lost would have other guys swarming her like flies. Katsu showed up shortly after, and she left with him. In the end, Sano couldn't do anything, only glare angrily at Makita, who seemed to enjoy toying with him. During lunch, they'd serve watermelon to the guests. Carrying a tray, Mizuki took it out and met with Sano. She offered him some, and they'd sit together, eating as she blabbered about different things. He'd been thinking all the while about how to apologize for what happened last night. To think they were getting into a fight over Makita, it was ridiculous. She felt so happy hearing him say that. As she left to put the plate away, he thought she was dense, rash, stubborn, and had zero self-preservation instinct. He really had to look out for her. So many questions ran through his mind. What was he to her? When did being together become so natural? She had this soft side, but despised losing, and she was crazy enough to come here from the States, pretending to be a guy. Yet, here he was, pretending he didn't know she was a girl. What exactly was he trying to achieve? Makita would then approach, wanting to talk man to man. Makita had always assumed Sano and Mizuki were dating. When he realized that wasn't the case, he decided to humor Sano's overprotective guardian act. The way Sano had scooped Mizuki up after her fainting spell made it seem like anyone interested in her needed his permission. Sano insisted he didn't care who Mizuki chose to date, so long as it wasn't Makita. Smirking, Makita asked whether that was him speaking as her guardian or from the heart. Elsewhere, Tamami sought out Mizuki for advice. She confessed she'd been trying her hardest to look attractive, wearing outfits she thought boys would like. But Sano still barely noticed her. Was he really that dense? Determined to confess her feelings, Tamami revealed that Sano once said Mizuki was the only one he could be around for long without feeling sick. Hearing that warmed Mizuki's heart more than she expected. Still, she had never seriously considered confessing to him. If she had met him as a girl from the start, would she have fallen for him the normal way? But then, their bond wouldn't be what it was now. Quietly, she wondered what Sano truly thought of Tamami. Later, while helping clean up, Mizuki and Nakatsu took a break, only to have Kagarazaka suddenly dump his little sister Kiyomi on them so he could go on a date. So much for brotherly responsibility. The two ended up playing with Kiyomi in a small pool. Nakatsu surprised Mizuki with how gently he entertained the child, even teaching her how to make a water gun. But Kiyomi proved to be a handful, grabbing the hose and drenching him completely. Meanwhile, Sano overheard Makita bragging to his friends about how he switched girlfriends every year and had already set his sights on someone new. The implication made Sano's blood boil. When he later saw Mizuki splashing around, he scolded her for playing in water after recently fainting. Worse, her wet shirt had become see-through. She tried to argue that the sun was hot, but Sano wouldn't hear it, ordering her to wrap herself in a towel. While changing clothes, Mizuki realized her undergarments were soaked. Just as she loosened her binder, Io walked in. Startled, Mizuki begged her not to tell anyone. After hearing the whole story, Io was stunned that Mizuki had followed Sano all the way from America and enrolled in an all-boys school, hiding her identity just to be near him. Aside from Umeda, no one had discovered her secret yet. As a mother, Io was horrified at the risk Mizuki was taking, but as a woman, she was impressed by her devotion, declaring it the stuff of romantic fantasy. She even offered to help if trouble arose. Still, she warned Mizuki not to forget she was a girl. Things wouldn't stay like this forever. One day, disguising herself would become impossible. Did she really want to keep hiding who she was from Sano? That night, Mizuki quietly asked Sano if she seemed girly. Confused, he assumed it had something to do with Makita. She brushed it off and went to sleep, but his words lingered. To him, she would always just be Mizuki. The idea of her suddenly acting differently felt strange. Yet, as she lay there, doubt crept in. What if things couldn't remain this way? The following day, Sano and Nakatsu helped Kagarizaka's family shell beans. Nakatsu, still annoyed, asked about Kagarizaka's date, only for Tamami to reveal her brother had been dumped. Then, Kagarizaka casually mentioned that Makita had driven off with Mizuki, though Sano acted indifferent. Kagarizaka warned him to hope nothing happened in the privacy of that car. Hours passed with no sign of them. Mayumi mentioned the car had stalled and they'd be delayed. Sano abruptly stormed off. On the road back, Makita stopped the car and bluntly told Mizuki he knew she liked Sano, but Sano only saw her as a friend. Positioning himself as the better option, he admitted he couldn't get her out of his head. Then he pushed her down in the seat, trying to force himself on her. Before he could go further, the car door was yanked open. Sano dragged Makita out and punched him. Mizuki fled into the woods, Sano chasing after her. When she tripped, he caught her hand, but she cried out in fear, pulling her into his arms. He assured her she was safe now. As night fell, Sano carried her through the forest. Checking his phone, he realized there was no signal. Suddenly, he slipped and the two tumbled down a slope. When Mizuki regained consciousness, the memory of Makita's actions sent chills through her. Sano explained what had happened. As she tried to stand, pain shot through her ankle. It was sprained. While tending to her injury, Sano apologized for not being more careful. She thanked him instead, though guilt consumed her. If only she had listened. He told her to stop blaming herself. It would only make things worse. Back at the hospice, Makita returned with a swollen face. Io was waiting and scolded him fiercely. When she learned Mizuki and Sano were missing, panic set in. Trapped with no way out, Sano and Mizuki waited for rescue. She apologized for dragging him into her mess. Tears streamed down her face as she admitted how terrified she'd been. The thought of what might have happened if he hadn't come left her shaken. He gently told her she was safe now. Feeling her forehead, he realized she had a fever. He told her to lean on him. When she grew weaker, he soaked a strip of his torn sleeve in spring water and cooled her down, even giving her water, mouth to mouth, when she couldn't drink. Promising to stay by her side, he held her through the night. Eventually, Yujiro and Nakatsu found them. The next day, Io informed Mizuki that Makita had left. She urged her to reassure everyone, especially Sano, who had stayed by her side so protectively. Blushing, Mizuki realized it hadn't been a dream. He really had held her. The kiss, though? Surely that was just in her imagination. When Sano stepped out of his room, he told her he was glad she was feeling better and that they'd be heading home tomorrow. As he turned to leave, she grabbed his shirt and thanked him. He walked away, but his cheeks burned at the memory of the night before. On departure day, Kagarizaka came to see him off, awkward as ever. Tamami, he mentioned, had returned in tears and hadn't left her room. Meanwhile, Nakatsu said goodbye to Kiyomi. Though she had been troublesome, he'd grown quite fond of her. As he tried to leave, she clung to him, crying and tugging his hair. Laughing, he gave her his armband, asking her to hold onto it until they met again. It was finally time for Osaka High's annual school festival. Namba rallied Dorm 2 like a general preparing his troops for battle, and judging by the cheers that erupted from the room, you'd think they were heading to war. The festival would last 3 days. Athletic events on day 1, indoor festival activities on day 2, and on the final day, the campus would open its gates to outside guests. But more than anything, the festival was a showdown between dorms. Each grade was split into 3 classes, and those classes were assigned to one of 3 dorms. Dorm 1 housed the sports-focused students. Dorm 3 was home to the arts crowd, and Dorm 2, led by Nanba, was a mix of both. Points accumulated across events would determine the overall winner, and the results were legendary. Special dining hall privileges, rumored monthly full-course French dinners, and for the highest scoring class, MVP status along with a cash prize. As Dorm 2 fired themselves up, the door suddenly burst open. Students from Dorm 1 stormed in, loudly declaring they would claim victory this year. Their leader, Tenoji Megumi, was the RA of Dorm 1 and the captain of the intimidating karate team. The tension between Tenoji and Nanba was obvious. There was history there. Behind Tenoji stood one of Dorm 1's Big Four, Kita Hanada, a second year, and Kujo, the third-year vice captain, known by the fearsome nickname Bohitsuva Kujo and Ashura Kujo. Nakatsu warned everyone that Kujo was not someone to mess with. Mizuki, however, thought he looked kind. When he glanced her way and smiled, it caused her to feel unnerved, however. After Dorm 1 left, Nanba reminded Dorm 2 that this competition could change their lives. Before dismissing them, he casually mentioned that the annual Miss Osaka beauty pageant would also take place. Anyone could nominate themselves, especially someone like Mizuki. The thought alone overwhelmed her, but Noe and Sekime reassured her that the festival had its perks. On the third day, real girls would visit campus. When Noe asked if she'd enter the pageant, Mizuki shut the idea down immediately. There was no way she could risk exposure like that. Later, back in the dorm room, Nakatsu began imagining Mizuki in girls' clothes, radiating pink romantic energy. Kayashima called him a pervert outright. It was obvious he was in love. Meanwhile, Sano explained the first day's events to Mizuki. Relay races, scavenger hunts, swimming competitions, and something called a chicken fight. He specifically warned her not to enter the chicken fight. When she demanded to know what it even was, he refused to elaborate and told her to sleep. Determined to get an answer, she started tickling him. In the scuffle, he accidentally pulled her close against his back. The sudden contact stunned them both. Mizuki's heart raced as memories surfaced. The grove from their summer job, the accidental kiss they once shared. She could still remember what his lips felt like, the warmth of his arms, the steady beat of his heart. Every place he had touched her seemed to glow in memory. It was undeniable how much she liked him. Sano, on the other hand, couldn't understand his own feelings. Did he simply want her around, or was it something more? The next day, Mizuki somehow secured a spot in the dreaded chicken fight. So much for Sano's warning. She insisted she wouldn't get caught easily, but that wasn't what worried him. Nikao approached her, declaring she'd get a guaranteed runner-up in the beauty pageant. When he learned she wasn't participating, he was shocked. She claimed girls' clothing didn't suit her, but the others insisted no one looked better. With the cash prize dangling in front of everyone, peer pressure mounted. Before she could protest further, Mizuki was officially entered into the pageant. Nanba then revealed another looming event, the brutal 2,000-meter relay from hell on the final day. 5 runners, 400 meters each. The participants will remain secret until the event. His decision was final. As if on cue, Tenoji barged in again, threatening to shave Nanba's hair when Dorm 1 won. Nikao shot back, teasing that Dorm 1 always flocked in the pageant. That's when Tenoji would smugly introduce their new trump card, Kadoma. One look at the boy's delicate beauty, and everyone understood Dorm 1 meant business. Tenoji mocked Mizuki's leg strength, saying she was only good for pageants. When she declared she'd compete in the chicken fight, he dismissed her outright. Their rivalry intensified on the spot. At the infirmary, Umeda expressed doubt about her joining the chicken fight, but wished her luck. Io arrived with a vest to flatten her chest, and reminisced about Nanba's own pageant appearance years ago, proudly showing off a stunning photo of him. Later, Mizuki noticed Nanba looking unusually downcast, something she had never seen before. As the events unfolded, Sano and Nakatsu competed in basketball, while Mizuki joined volleyball. Unbeknownst to her, rival players were assigned to keep an eye on her. Dorm 2 won the basketball tournament, but celebrations were short-lived. Announcements revealed Dorm 1 had swept the swimming competitions. Overall, Dorm 2 had fallen to last place. Tenoji gloated shamelessly, declaring everything fair in love and war. He was going to send them packing during the chicken fight. As Kujo passed by, he smiled at Mizuki again. Nanba quickly warned her to stay away. Rumor had it, Kujo once dislocated someone's arm without hesitation. The volleyball match came next. Mizuki tried to rally her team, but Dorm 2 was eliminated almost instantly. Then, in dramatic fashion, a red carpet rolled out, and spotlights flared. Oscar M. Himejima, RA of Dorm 3, made his grand entrance. With theatrical flair, he gently lifted Mizuki's chin and invited her to transfer to Dorm 3, promising she'd never want for anything more. Nakatsu hurled a shoe at him, revealing that the M stood for Masao, not something grand. Exposed, Himejima retreated. Apparently, he was the theater club president, with delusions of grandeur and a suspicious claim about German ancestry. By lunchtime, Dorm 2 was sulking. Nanba appeared in a white uniform, announcing he'd participate in the cheer squad competition. Since faculty judged that event, it offered a fair chance. He urged Mizuki to secure the 500-meter relay. Losing that would mean the end. Nanba's cheer performance electrified Dorm 2. The results came in. Dorm 2 won the cheer competition, closing the gap. In a burst of excitement, Mizuki hugged Sano without realizing it. Nakatsu watched, jealousy swirling inside him. During the 500-meter relay, Mizuki ran with everything she had and won first place for Dorm 2. In her excitement, she accidentally carried off the event flag and was later told to return it to the storeroom. While searching for it, she stumbled upon Nanba embracing a girl. She quickly hid before being seen. Walking away, her mind buzzed. Did he have an older girlfriend? Had he broken up with someone? She scolded herself for prying into something that wasn't her business. What she didn't realize was that earlier, watchers were still tracking her movements, quietly observing from the shadows. Nanba gathered his dormmates and reminded them that the final event of the day was the chicken race. Dorm 2 was only 7 points behind the leaders, which meant they still had a chance to win. Their path to victory was close, and all they needed was one strong push. When the event finally began, Mizuki quickly realized that the chicken race wasn't a race at all. Instead, it was more like a large free-for-all battle. Each dorm wore different colored bandanas. Dorm 1 had blue, Dorm 2 had white, and Dorm 3 had red. The goal was simple: steal your opponent's bandanas while protecting your own. Anyone who lost theirs was immediately out of the game. As soon as the signal started, chaos broke out everywhere. Students rushed at each other from every direction, grabbing and dodging in frantic skirmishes. Mizuki moved quickly through the crowd and managed to snatch 2 red bandanas in just a few seconds. Feeling confident, she began looking around for Tanoji so she could challenge him directly. However, before she could find him, someone suddenly attacked her from behind. The opponent proved far stronger than the others she had faced. Mizuki tried to defend herself, but she couldn't hold them off. Within moments, she was knocked to the ground. Later, at the medical tent, Sano and Nakatsu had their injuries treated by Umeda. Fortunately, their wounds were nothing more than minor scrapes and bruises. The only reason they were hurt at all was because they had stepped in to help Mizuki when she was attacked. Mizuki herself was mostly unharmed, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the guy who knocked her down had done it deliberately. If Sano and Nakatsu hadn't intervened, things might have turned out much worse. By the end of the first day of the festival, Dorm 1 had completely outperformed Dorm 2. With only 2 days left, the competition was growing more intense. Dorm 3 was also preparing to make a comeback. Namba gathered everyone again and told them that brute strength alone wouldn't win the festival. They needed clever ideas. Each grade had prepared different attractions for the second day. The first years had built an arcade, the second years were running a themed cafe, and the third years were planning a mystery show. Namba's eyes burned with determination as he told everyone that there would be no holding back. They were going all out. His words fired up the entire dorm. This time, he was aiming for victory. That night, back in their room, Sano still seemed to be in pain from his earlier injuries. Mizuki checked on him, worried. As she leaned closer, Sano found himself quietly captivated by her beauty. Feeling guilty, Mizuki apologized for causing him trouble, but Sano brushed it off, telling her not to worry. Still, he admitted that he had noticed something strange about the person who attacked her. It felt deliberate, almost as if that guy had been targeting Mizuki specifically. Mizuki wondered if it might have something to do with Kujo, though she couldn't be certain. Sano warned her to stay cautious anyway. Even so, Mizuki didn't want to jump to conclusions. When she left the room to take a shower, Sano remained behind, thinking. He was convinced she was hiding something. From what he had seen, Tanoji or someone from his dorm might be responsible. That meant he would need to keep watch over her. Then again, he couldn't help wondering why he felt the need to do that in the first place. But somehow, protecting her just felt natural. The next day, Mizuki and Nakao appeared in adorable male cross-dressing outfits for the beauty pageant event. The boys around them were completely stunned by how good they looked. Soon after, Sekime appeared in a dress as well, followed by Nakatsu, who looked painfully uncomfortable in his tight outfit. Noe had to help adjust the dress, so he could even move properly. However, Nakatsu quickly forgot about his embarrassment the moment he saw Mizuki. She looked so cute that he immediately started bleeding from the nose, forcing Noe to drag him away before he caused a scene. Meanwhile, Mizuki went looking for Sano. Along the way, she accidentally stumbled into a room full of gloomy-looking guys changing into dresses for the event. The eerie sight nearly frightened her, but the moment she saw Sano, everything else faded away. He looked so beautiful in his costume that she couldn't stop staring. When the second day of the festival officially began, Dorm 2's attractions drew massive crowds. The cafe was filled with so many pretty faces that visitors started questioning whether this was really an all-boys school. The beauty pageant contestants were displayed in the lobby of the Western Wing. Today's votes would determine the 12 finalists for the following day's competition. Members of the executive committee approached Mizuki and Nakao to conduct interviews for the pageant survey. Both of them were receiving a huge number of votes. However, when the interviewer began asking about their measurements, Nakao answered confidently, while Mizuki panicked and ran away. Hidden in the shadows nearby, the people who had been targeting her quietly discussed their next move. If Mizuki participated in the final 2,000-meter relay race on the third day, she could change the outcome of the festival. To prevent that, they were already planning ways to eliminate her from the competition. Outside, Mizuki regretted ever joining the beauty pageant. While wandering around, she suddenly spotted Nanba speaking with the same girl she had seen earlier. She hadn't meant to spy on them, but the situation caught her attention. Just then, she ran into Umeda, who claimed he was simply taking a break. When they heard Nanba raise his voice at the girl, both of them instinctively moved closer to listen. According to Umeda, the girl had once been Nanba's tutor back in his final year of middle school, and the two of them had dated. After their breakup, Nanba had started developing his reputation as a flirt. He demanded to know why she suddenly disappeared years ago without any explanation. The girl apologized, admitting that she had no excuse for what she had done. She claimed she truly loved him and begged him to believe her, but Nanba refused to accept. In desperation, he pulled her close and kissed her, but she responded by slapping him. It was clear their relationship couldn't be repaired. Through tears, she told him they had both just been kids back then, before saying goodbye. After she left, Namba immediately noticed Mizuki hiding in the bushes nearby. Umeda had already slipped away before she even realized it. He felt embarrassed that Mizuki had witnessed such a pathetic moment. He admitted the girl had been his first real love, the kind of love where you believe nothing else mattered, as long as you were together. But one day, she vanished without a word. Seeing her again made him realize he had never truly gotten over it. And now she was about to marry a man nearly twice his age. Namba then asked Mizuki if he could have a hug. She agreed without hesitation. As he embraced her, Sano happened to pass by and saw them together. When Namba pulled away, he returned to his usual teasing attitude. Even as a womanizer, he joked that he couldn't miss the chance to flirt with someone like her. Mizuki expected this kind of behavior from him. Then, Namba suddenly asked if she was in love with someone. Her flustered reaction gave him his answer. Smiling gently, he told her to cherish that feeling. First love was special, and even if she fell in love again someday, it would never feel exactly the same. Love matured over time, and it had to be nurtured carefully so those feelings could bloom. At that moment, Nakao's voice blasted through the loudspeakers, calling for Mizuki. She quickly hurried back. When she returned, she apologized to Nakao for being late. Turning around, she suddenly saw Sano standing there, already back in his normal uniform. Without saying a word, he turned and walked away. Mizuki didn't have time to process it though, because Nakao was already scolding her for disappearing. Later, while serving customers, one of the boys at a table asked for a particular girl while holding up an old photograph. Mizuki instantly recognized the picture. It was Nanba from his first year. The other boys crowded around excitedly to see it. At that moment, Nanba appeared and crushed the photo in his hand. He clearly hadn't expected his embarrassing past to resurface like this. The culprit behind it all, Nihon Bashi, admitted that he had brought out his old photo collection out of jealousy over Nanba's good looks. He even claimed that he had permission to sell the pictures. Nanba calmly responded by asking if he had ever heard of the right of publicity. In the end, Nanba got the last laugh by forcing Nihon Bashi to enter the beauty pageant himself. With only 2 hours remaining on the second day, the scoreboard showed Dorm 1 with 104 points, Dorm 2 with 101, and Dorm 3 leading with 110. Once again, Dorm 2 sat in last place. It wasn't surprising that the arts-focused Dorm 3 dominated the festival's second day, largely thanks to Himejima's theatrical talents. Nanba later complimented Sano's Yangi Fei cosplay, praising how popular it had been with visitors. However, Sano was clearly in a foul mood and told Nanba to leave him alone. Nanba jokingly teased him and mentioned Mizuki's popularity while casually ruffling her hair. Sano didn't react at all. He simply grabbed a bag of trash and walked away. Mizuki chased after him, offering to help, but he pushed her away and told her to leave him alone. Confused and hurt, she didn't understand what she had done to make him angry. Later, she turned to Umeda for advice, admitting that she didn't understand how boys thought. He laughed and told her that even tough girls like her couldn't always understand how delicate boys could be. She also mentioned Nanba and the encouraging words he had given her earlier. Then, Umeda suddenly asked about her relationship with Sano, specifically whether they were using protection. Mizuki nearly exploded with embarrassment and insisted that nothing like that was happening. To her, Sano was simply a very important friend. Umeda replied that someday, friendship alone might not be enough. As Mizuki walked away, she encountered Sano again. This time, he apologized for snapping at her earlier, admitting he had just been in a bad mood. With things cleared up, he suggested they focus on cleaning up and preparing for the final day. Suddenly, a flower pot fell from above. Sano instinctively grabbed Mizuki and pulled her away just in time. Fortunately, it missed her completely. She was too frightened to even look up, afraid someone might still be there. Later that evening, she ran into Tenoji again. He apologized for the rough attack during the chicken race and admitted the student responsible was from his dorm. To make up for it, he suggested they call that round a draw and settled their rivalry properly in the 2,000-meter relay race. Mizuki was surprised to discover that he was actually a nicer person than she expected. As she was leaving, Kujo approached her and casually mentioned the flower pot incident. He warned her to be careful before quietly walking away. His words made Mizuki suspicious. Mizuki's mind replayed that scene of the flower pot being pushed down on her, and she awoke from that terrible nightmare. She'd go wash her face, and the sound of the water running woke up Sano. Hearing that she had a bad dream, he told her to come sleep next to him. More like he didn't give her a choice and dragged her into bed. Deciding to take what she got, Mizuki snuggled close to his chest. Hearing his heartbeat, she was flush, but it was also reassuring. The next morning, Nakatsu would barge into their room and was shocked, seeing Mizuki and Sano in the same bed. After explaining what happened, She went off to get ready. On the other hand, Sano had no recollection of what happened last night. He thought Mizuki wandered into his bed while sleep drunk. While waiting outside, Nakatsu tried to understand why a boy would go into another boy's bed after having a bad dream. There was nothing normal about this. Kayashima then came by, noting that his aura was the color of jealousy. During the last day of the school festival, everywhere was full with visitors from the outside. While Mizuki and Nakatsu were watching the ground, Kayashima met with them and took a spirit photo. It wasn't just a regular photo. Looking closer, they could see spirits around them. Freaked out, Nakatsu passed out. For some reason, this was Kayashima's hobby, and he had turned it into a business. Afterwards, as Mizuki was on her way to serve drinks, the girls around thought she looked like a real girl. When she got to Nanba's class, she was astonished by the long line they had. The class was having a mystery show, and Nanba would be acting as Akechi Kojiro, the great-grandson of the renowned detective, Akechi Goro. The ladies were gushing at the sight of him. To solve the murder mystery, he pointed to a lovely lady, asking for her assistance. Each word he spoke left her blushing and speechless. Among the crowd, Mizuki noticed Nakao there and dragged him away. Just as she got back to the hallway, she noticed some girls begging to take pictures with Sano. When one of them wrapped her hands around him, Mizuki was furious. She dragged him away, saying they were short-staffed, so he needed to get back to work. Sano thanked her for the save, but that did nothing to cool her anger. The next moment, Mizuki found herself in the flashes of cameras as a lot of girls started taking pictures of her. Suddenly, she heard Himejima's voice coming from the shadows. He'd appear as a vampire, sweeping her off her feet. That little display was enough to accomplish his main goal, stealing their customers. Refusing to forgive him for laying his hands on Mizuki, Nakatsu would chase after Himejima. He'd find Kadoma and one other student from Dorm 1 chatting. That was how he found out they were the ones who planned the flower pot incident. Also, what happened during the chicken fight incident finally made sense. Out of nowhere, Kujo showed up, caressing Nakatsu's legs. As Nakatsu yelled, the Dorm 1 students heard it and quickly left. Regardless, he knew their plans now. Nakatsu then ran back to Sano, letting him know Mizuki was in danger. Outside, Osaka Academy's famous beauty pageant was kicking off. The 12 ladies on stage were the ones who made it past the elimination round, and Mizuki, who was among them, just wanted to go home. The top 4 contestants were Kadoma, Nakao, Mizuki, and an anonymous last-minute entrant. After the talent program, Kadama got the signal to make his move. He approached Mizuki, asking to talk to her privately. As she followed him, Mizuki asked why he joined the karate team. He didn't really look like the type. He explained that he got mistaken for a girl a lot in town, and that he was the only one of his siblings who was small and weak. But after seeing Kujo's kumete, he thought it was magnificent. Mizuki could relate, considering that's how she felt when she saw Sano's jump. Just before Kadoma could tell her the truth, some guys surrounded them. They held down Mizuki while he made a run for it. Shortly after, Nakao caught sight of the guys harassing Mizuki. He tried to help, but got punched in the face. However, that only served to reveal his rough side. He wasn't about to let them get away so easily. The finals of the beauty pageant were about to be announced. As Nakatsu and Sano got backstage, Nakao ran to them, telling them Mizuki had been kidnapped. Upon spotting Kujo, Sano questioned him, demanding to know where Ashiya had been taken. Kujo claimed he didn't know what Sano was talking about, so Kadoma ran to them, saying Kujo had nothing to do with this, and he explained everything. Back with Mizuki, she was pushed into a storeroom. That's when Kita Hanada revealed himself as the culprit behind everything. It was all his idea. Tenoji knew nothing about this. After that, they locked her in the storeroom. Running to Mizuki's rescue, Sano thought about how worried he always became when Mizuki was out of his sight. If only she could stay by his side. Meanwhile, Mizuki was trying to fight her way out, and just before one of the boys could attack her, Nakatsu flew in with a flying kick. He chased after the rest that ran away. Sano then made his way in and knocked out the one guy left behind. Staring at Mizuki, he took her hand and placed his head on her shoulder. She was flush, wondering what had gotten into him, but he asked her not to move. He was the one who wanted her by his side. We turned back to the pageantry stage, where Kita Hanada was freaking out because Kadoma wasn't on stage. At that moment, Kadoma showed up with Kujo, and they explained everything to Tenoji. Tenoji and the culprits would later meet with Nanba and the rest, apologizing to them. Since Mizuki was willing to forgive them, Nanba had nothing else to say on the matter. She then apologized to Kujo for suspecting him initially. The 200-meter race was about to start. Mizuki and Nakatsu were called up for it. Sadly, Nakatsu had a sprained ankle, thanks to that flying kick from earlier. This meant they'd have to find a replacement, and quickly. Nanba would take Nakatsu's place on the track. His eyes were set on the prize, and once this was done, he'd finally accept his ex's wedding, and even send her a flower bouquet. On her way to the starting lines, she noticed Sano's eyes on her, making her blush hard. Once the race started, Namba was able to close most of the gap, and handing the baton over to Mizuki, she took them to victory. With that, Dorm 2 won the overall competition, and they also emerged as the MVPs for this year. After the race, while Mizuki and Sano were walking together, she noticed he'd been acting off today. So, she asked what was wrong. He replied, "I was just looking at you." But the wind carried those soft words away. She asked him to repeat himself. Sano, however, just smiled, saying nothing else. Alright, finally done with this series. Overall, I thought it was fun. You know, it is kind of your typical high school romance. And this one has the particular flavor of like fake BL, you know, making Mizuki seem kind of like a boy, right? But it was fine. What do you guys think? Subscribe for more content, and let me know if you want me to cover future seasons of this series. Also, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea. I'll see you all in the next one.